Hi, welcome to the ILM Level 2 Award in Leadership and Team Skills, and this is the assignment tutorial for Managing Yourself. As with all of the ILM assignments, there's two parts to this one. So the first part is about managing your own time, and the second part is about managing your stress, or as I like to call it, boosting your resilience. So let's start with assessment criteria 1.1, explain the importance of effective time management. So for a good pass, this is clearly explained in detail. What constitutes effectiveness in time management is explained, and what poor time management may look like. So we have done this as part of our workshop, as you know, and I would say in terms of thinking about what managing time effectively is to think about why we do it, who it's important for in terms of customers, colleagues, the business, and team members, and obviously our own team members that report to us. I want you to think about why it's important to have time scales, why it's important to have deadlines, and how people do manage their time. So bearing in mind there's 12 marks in this, and be aware of that, but also great to include examples in there of effective time management within your team and its impact. And then you could just put a sentence in at the end about the effectiveness of poor time management and the impact of that as well. So you're all about why it's important, when it's important, and how it's important. So making sure that you cover those three areas. Okay. 1.2, assessment criteria 1.2 is about the strengths and weaknesses in time management. And we did an analysis of this, a personal analysis of this in the session. So thinking about your really good strengths in there, things that you're not so strong on. So use the examples that you've provided there. And also, again, if you include the examples around individual or team or business or your team members themselves. And then you could also, give some clarification about excellent time management. So the example, if possible, could have something around excellence in terms of managing your time effectively. And that would be great. Okay. 1.3 is about setting and prioritizing SMART objectives and goals to achieve goals. So we did a good exercise there on identifying SMART goals. So SMART being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. I try to get these right, but not always. And there are explicit links between the SMART objectives that you've identified and the team goals. So in the template you have, it actually very clearly links. And this is really to demonstrate that your own objectives are clearly aligned to the organizational goals. So everyone has the same vision, everyone understands where they're going to, and are coming from the correct with the correct agenda. And really the idea is, if you're operating outside of that, you would be questioning, why am I actually doing this, or why is my team member doing this? Because it's not in alignment with the organizational goals. So that's really, this exercise is actually really demonstrating that. So the important thing is making sure they're SMART. Make sure those are SMART and there's clear alignment. 3 or 4 objectives is plenty. Okay, and then you could do some explanation linking. Under your table, you might want to do a little bit of explanation. So if I was to complete this objective, this would contribute to the goal in this way, or this would benefit the organization in this way. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. There's 20 marks for that piece. It's not that challenging, it should be fairly clear. So spend the time on that, and get those 20 marks. 1.4 then is describe a simple time management technique for achieving objectives. So we've used the Stephen Covey prioritization matrix, and feel free to Google that. There's loads and loads of information. So I would describe that matrix. I would include a copy of that in your appendix. Maybe a completed copy would be particularly good with some of your key things that you're working on at the moment. Clear and correct identification of each of the parts Each of the quadrants would be really good. The not urgent, not important, urgent, important, etc., etc., with some examples in there. So an example of urgent, not important, an example of not important, not urgent, would be great in there. And that should be fairly straightforward. And how does, very important in this is describe how using that technique can actually help you with your objectives. So how using that technique can help you with your objectives. Okay, so assessment criteria 2.1. So this is moving away from the time management piece into the managing stress and developing resilience side. So 2.1, identify causes of stress and state their impact on the workplace. And we discussed this. We did this on the flip charts. We should also all have photos of those. And so there was examples like one of the most obvious ones around communication. So some detail in there. So you're listing them, but also providing some explanation in detail and talking about the impact of this issue on the workplace. And taking it, I think we talked about this in the session, taking it in its widest view. So ensuring there's something around reputation of the organisation, financial implications, and the reputation being very linked into how the business is marketed, their brand, their reputation, and how they recruit. So there's a whole other ripple effect that comes from people having really good stress management techniques and supporting people through issues in the workplace. Okay, so that should cover that, and again, it's worth 12 marks. 2.2, list the symptoms of stress in the workplace. We did this kind of as a case study. So I would like you to identify about 5 or 6 different symptoms and then describe those. Okay, so things like anxiety, disproportionate emotion to a situation in work is always a high indicator. So somebody who's very emotional about something that actually isn't that really big of a big a deal in the wider scheme of things. Anything around irritability, loss of confidence, emotional, snappy, or the alternative could be someone who becomes withdrawn, very quiet, disengaged, and always seems to be very tired, would all be indicators as well of somebody maybe just finding things really challenging, or a distinct dip in performance, which is unusual for the person. And that happens because people are not able to function in their normal way, and so it cuts certain parts of their brain off to help them conserve kind of energy and focus. So listing those symptoms, but also describing them. Now, it's only worth 8 marks, so don't spend too much time on it. However, that should be fairly straightforward. Okay, so 2.3, describe a simple stress management technique. So we used the circles of control, kind of the clear mind exercise about moving issues from a bucket of worry into either deleting or crucially moving them into an area where you can control it or influence it. In other words, you will use your networks and strategies to actually see if there's anybody else that can support you with the issue, and then create some actions out of there. And again, smart actions. So you can use, I did that with you guys in the workshop. You can use that stress management technique. You could also maybe talk about some of the breathing techniques and visualizations, or you could talk about some other support there that you could get in terms of meditation, mindfulness, yoga, doing exercise, running, etc., whatever you think it is. Would be a good approach. So whatever you think, if you think you've got another technique that you would like to include, please do that. And there's 16 marks in that, so there's quite a bit there, so you've got a bit of space to play with in terms of if you wanted to add anything else in. And 2.4, the final one, is identifying sources of support available in the workplace or elsewhere for stress management. So we did this in 3 categories. So we looked at groups and people, etc., and work as well. So I think you should have at least 6 or 7 different sources and you want them to be kind of widespread sources, so a good range there. And it's great to have that mixture, so they're both in work and outside of work. So include the likes of charities, such as Samaritans or Childline or things like that, plus GP, plus maybe some exercise related or social activity related stress management approaches, so a really good variety, and again they're described and maybe a little bit about how they could potentially help. Okay, so that's the managing yourself and others. It should be very straightforward. Get your first drafts to me and we will take it from there. Okay, thanks guys, bye.